Hello, Facebook. I think we're live now. Thank you for joining me again today so that we can chat a little bit. I just want to begin by saying that I have a hard out on this at 2:25 because we have the Board of Estimate and Apportionment also via Zoom, I think it is, at 2:30. So I'm not going to talk too long today, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update on cases, and then we'll just go directly to your questions. In the city of St. Louis, confirmed cases. This was yesterday. This is at 1:15 today. 1,037 cases, positive cases in St. Louis. Deaths in the city of St. Louis, 49. Confirmed cases in St. Louis County. I'll use round numbers here. 2,900, 132 deaths. St. Charles, 550 cases. 31 deaths. In the state of Missouri, about 7,000 cases. So of those 7,000 cases for the city of St. Louis, this region, city, county, and St. Charles, we're about 60% of those cases. That has not changed. Number of people currently hospitalized. This is as of, this says the 24th. I think that might not be right. But 701, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. ICU census 168 and ventilators in use 114. Now, one of the other things that you probably know by reading the news, reading the paper, et cetera, is that there certainly have been a number of people who have been discharged from the hospital. That's very good news. And also a number of people who have tested positive that never had to go to the hospital and have recovered. So, those are certainly very important factors as we go down the road on this. At 3:00 today, Governor Parson is going to be introducing, having a press conference, I believe, to talk about what his new restrictions are and how he might reopen parts of the government. The city of St. Louis and St. Louis County will make that decision jointly so that the city and the county are in sync with one another. And we will make that decision at some point in time, probably in a couple of weeks. So are there questions? We do have a blinking camera here. I don't know if we can do anything about that, but we'll just keep going.
Okay. We do have a couple of questions.
Blink.
So you mentioned the Governor Parson is going to begin to reopen parts of the state on May the 4th. The city and the county are not. Why isn't the city following the state's lead on that?
Because the city has so many cases. The state of Missouri has 114 counties in it. Some counties have one case. Where, as you can see, St. Louis City and County together have over 4,000 cases. So we just are in a different place with regard to the number of cases and with regard to the number of people that are getting ill.
Where is the city of St. Louis on the projected curve right now? Did we peak on Saturday as the task force had predicted?
We think we're at the peak right now, whether it was Saturday or Sunday. Is unclear at this point in time. We'll know as we start going down the other side. Can we take a little break? Tommy, is there anything we can do about this blinking? No?
I think it's fine. Everything looks good.
Okay. Doesn't look good to you guys, does it? Because it's blinking like crazy to me.
No, it looks fine.
Okay.
I'm watching.
Next question. There are actually 2 or 3 questions about this. Over the weekend, the St. Louis City Police had to break up a large group of people and motorcyclists who were gathering on city streets. What are your thoughts on that? And is it taking up police manpower and 911 resources?
Yeah, it's crazy. We had a big group of people, a couple of hundred people is my understanding, and that were racing down the street, standing around one another. The police, it took a number of cars, maybe a dozen cars and officers to break that up. We had a lot of motorcyclists doing wheelies. It's just, one, it's unsafe. And two, it takes up a lot of our resources for what I guess is being done for fun, but it's really not all that fun when somebody ends up getting hurt. So it's aggravating.
How is the city expanding its testing capabilities so it can begin to reopen?
So tests are still a problem. We don't have enough tests. You've heard me say that constantly. We still don't have enough tests. It's a broken record that our tests are going to come in this week, and then they're going to come in next week, and now we hope they come in this week. When they do, I'll be sure to tell you. But nobody has enough tests, whether it's St. Louis City, St. Louis County, St. Charles. There's still very restrictive criteria on who can get the tests. And so that just continues to be a problem. And we are hoping that we're able to see a downward trajectory on the number of people hospitalized and the number of new cases. We're hoping that we're able to see that and be able to take action based on that, because we still do not have enough tests.
One follow-up question, Mayor, to the stay-at-home orders. Does the state's decision supersede your decision to keep yours in place longer than May 4th?
It does not. The governor has been very clear with us that he will be looking to local governments to decide what they need to do.
Hospitals, one question has to do with elective surgeries. A lot of them were canceled. Will those be, to the best of your knowledge, put back on the books as we slowly start to recover and reopen here?
So that's a difficult question. I actually spoke with the heads of the hospital, the three major hospital systems yesterday, four major systems, SSM, St. Luke's, Mercy, and BJC. And at this point, they have not started elective surgeries, but they are trying to figure out how to do that and when to do that. As soon as there's some confidence that we have hit the peak and are going down, lowering the number of cases and hospitalizations.
As part of the city's recovery, has the city considered offering rental assistance to people who have struggled to pay rent? We have another, first of the month coming right around the corner.
So we are looking for funding to help people with rent through rental assistance. And we haven't actually received any of this money yet, but it's certainly any of the federal money or the state money for that matter. But it's rental assistance and helping people stay in their homes and stay in their apartments is certainly one of our priorities.
Has crime in the city gone up or down during the stay-at-home order?
So violent crime, shootings and homicides has not gone down. Violent crime is actually up. This morning, as of this morning, we had 47 homicides so far this year. That compares with, I think the number was 38 last year on this date. And so violent crime has not gone down. Some other kinds of crime have gone down, the crimes of opportunities. But of course, we're extremely worried about the violent crime. And, it's a combination of things. People are at home. People are under a lot of stress, perhaps. We have significantly reduced the number of people that are that are being detained in our jails. It's unclear whether that has any bearing on this or not. And so all of those things, though, have resulted in more violence than last year at this time.
There has been a fair amount of criticism for keeping the city closed when a lot of people are out of work and want their jobs back. How do you respond to that and asking people to hang on a little bit longer?
It is stressful staying home, and of course it's stressful going to work. And we are just trying to hang in there a little bit longer until we are sure that we've tamped this spread down and we just hit the peak, we think. You don't know if you hit the peak until you start going down the other side, but we think we hit the peak just over this weekend. And so I know people want to get back to work, and you need to get back to work. There's a lot of stress and distress in not working. So as we begin to open up this economy in a gradual way, it's sort of like a rheostat on a light fixture, not a light switch, then people will be able to get back to work. On the other hand, I hear from people all the time who are scared to go back to work. They don't want to go back to work because they're afraid of getting sick. So there's that whole balancing act.
We have Kyle.
Yeah. So just watch this for a minute while we do this. See if there's anything we can do about it.
Then it looks clean, but I know what you mean. I know what you're looking at when it's live. It's a little glitchy.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone. We have a wedding vendor who is watching and is looking for guidance about large gatherings, particularly weddings moving forward, and when they might be able to do that again.
So big weddings, if you're a wedding vendor, I'm going to assume that you do big weddings. Big weddings are going to be dependent upon right now we have a 10-person gathering limit in place. And so that's going to have to get expanded. Maybe it'll first be expanded to 50 and then maybe to 100. I mean, all these things are coming about. But if you're talking about a big wedding with a very dense seating, 10 people at a table, I think that's a ways off.
The DMV at City Hall is closed, correct?
The DMV at City Hall is closed.
What can someone do if they need to register their car?
Go online. You can do a lot of that online. You have temp tags if you just bought the car, but if you need to renew, you can do most of that online. And then the governor has given a 60-day extension. So if your license plate expires at the end of April, you do have an additional 60 days. I know I have a car whose plate expires in May. And so I'm just waiting to hope to get it renewed.
Places for pets like groomers and pet salons, those are not open right now, but at what point do you think that they'll be phased back in?
So actually, most pet groomers probably are open if they provide not veterinary services, but pet health services. So some of them are open at this point in time.
There's a downtown resident who's watching, and they'd like to know what's happening with the tent encampment across the street from City Hall.
Thanks for that question. So we're working hard every day to try to place people into housing, into shelter. And we have placed about 40 people already. There are a number of new people who continue to come. And so we are working on a plan right now to have enough shelter beds or to where everyone can go into a bed. And when that happens, then we will get everyone moving into a shelter bed or into into a motel or into a congregate care facility so that we no longer have the encampment in downtown. Dr. Eccles has said, and we all certainly agree, that this is not a safe situation. There's a lot of no social distancing. There's a lot of mixing. There's a lot of, socializing going on in these two encampments that have popped up in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Maybe it's 3 weeks by now in downtown. It's not a safe situation.
What kind of cases, if any, are happening in the city courts right now?
City courts are closed. Municipal courts are closed. The state courts, the circuit courts are closed. And that's actually controlled by the Supreme Court. And there was I believe a Supreme Court decision or recommendation at this point that courts would reopen June 1st.
The guidance you gave the wedding planner about weddings, similar question, but this time for funerals. The
Mm-hmm.
same rules essentially apply, more or less?
Yes. And that's a very tough situation. But we know that early on, one of the individuals who passed away from COVID, we believe through contact tracing, contracted it at actually a funeral. And so funerals are even, most funerals, you have a lot of older people there, a very highly susceptible group, and people are hugging and expressing their sympathy. That's a pretty dangerous situation.
Is the city consider hiring extra contact tracers to help in determining where COVID-19 has been in the community? So
the city of St. Louis actually has a very sophisticated contact tracing system. It's a computer program of sorts called Qualtrics. Dr. Eccles and his staff of epidemiologists and healthcare providers run that system. And so if someone is determined to be positive, COVID positive, then they make contact. They figure out where the contacts have been. They make contact with all of those people. They quarantine those people for 14 days or 14 days since the last exposure. And then those people have to check in twice a day with via a computer program. You can do it on your telephone, your smartphone, or on a computer. And you have to take your temperature. They give them a lot of information and answer some questions twice a day. And if you don't do that, then they call you on the phone. And if you don't pick up, then they go to see you. And so that it's this escalated, but the basics of it are identifying individuals. We've contact traced thousands of individuals now. Right now, I think we're only monitoring 120 people, 130 people. But over this spectrum of time, we've monitored well in excess of 1,000 people, and we'll continue to do that.
One of your viewers, Mayor, would like to know if you would please make mask wearing absolutely mandatory for the public.
So we have very strongly recommended that everybody wear a mask. I've got several of them laying here on my desk. And so making it mandatory, what the recommendation now is, if you're going to be in public and you're not going to be able to stay 6 feet apart, which is almost everywhere except maybe your yard, then you should wear a mask. And we also have made it mandatory that companies that are open, Schnucks, the gas station, that they provide their employees with appropriate PPE, personal protective equipment. Almost always that means a mask, and sometimes it means gloves, depending on what they're doing.
So you know about obviously the PPP loan program through the Small Business Association. One of our reporter friends from St. Louis Public Radio is asking, for the city, what are things that we're doing in addition to the federal government to help support small businesses?
So St. Louis Development Corporation has a fund that can help with up to a $5,000 loan. Now, that's not a huge amount of money, but for a small business that can bridge a gap, $5,000 loan to individuals while they perhaps wait to get the PPP. And so we are actively seeking folks to apply for that. And there have been a lot of applications, but there will be more.
We have about 5 minutes, and I don't have any new questions unless you have anything else you want to address or.
No, I just want to thank everybody for bearing with us here. It's for my good. It's for your good. It's to help tamp down the spread. We feel like we're really hopeful that we are going to reduce the number of cases over the next 14 days. And we are working on how and under what conditions and what kinds of businesses can we open in phase 1, and then maybe more in phase 2 and phase 3. Until finally we are able to be fully reopened. But it will be a gradual process. We also, the doctors, the medical professionals tell us that once we do begin to open up the economy a bit or open up the businesses a bit, we will probably see a spike, a run up in the number of cases as we, pass this around. And so we're really trying to do this in such a way that is not a really bad situation. So thank you all. Thanks to all the first responders. Thanks to police and fire and EMS. And thanks to our trash truck drivers. And thanks to our water department employees. Thank you to, of course, healthcare workers, doctors and dietary and nurses and housekeeping, the whole spectrum of folks. And thank you to our grocery store workers and all of you that are going to work, because I know a lot of you are still going to work. A lot of you work for the city and you're still going to work. Thank you for that. For everyone else, bear with us a little bit longer. I think it really is important that we continue to shelter or continue to stay at home as much as possible. If we can get this down, then we can begin to open the economy and the businesses back up. Thank you all. Bye.